Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
Hey, a pleasant afternoon and evening and morning wherever you are in the world. Welcome. We appreciate all the Water Zone followers. Good afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good day today. I know Mr. Chris Davey was fighting the rain this morning, and I guess he turned out okay, right, Chris?
Yeah, we're okay, buddy. I mean, this is the first of a 1-2 shot that's coming into the West Coast, Northern, Central, and Southern California, although the second shot is aimed pretty much directly at Southern California, anywhere from Point Conception south down to San Diego and northern Mexico, actually, and it's the colloquial atmospheric river or arc that's heading our way. So we had a pretty good soaking overnight, and we're going to have a couple of dry out days, Friday and Saturday, and half a day Sunday, and then it's supposed to hit for 3 to 4 days in a row, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're getting ready. Might be tying up the boat in Idaho.
That's a good idea. Well, let's bring the other Chris in, because Miss Austin knows what's going on in her part of the world there in California. Chris, what do you see?
Well, we had some rain yesterday. It was fairly heavy, and but today was pretty nice. But it's clouds rolling in, and the rain is expected to pick back up, I think, tonight or tomorrow for us here. But we'll see. We had a couple of real warm days at the beginning of the week, warm enough that all the mosquitoes came out, and we had a day where it even made the news. Everyone was getting bit by mosquitoes, but I think they're all gone now when the temperatures dropped. But that's the story of this winter, is warm temperatures and not a lot of snow, but rain.
Yeah, so Sierras didn't see hardly any of this, did they?
They saw some, but, it's what we really want to see is feet of snow, and there hasn't been a lot of storms that have come through that have dumped feet of snow. Occasional ones, but, a foot or two, but not some really big ones. So, I think the snow survey on Tuesday was 54% statewide, half of average for this time. So we're not looking very good in the snow department here. So we may be looking at it's not. I wouldn't say it's going to be a rough summer, but I don't think that the people that manage water are going to let as much go out of the reservoirs if it's a dry year than they would have prior to these last deep droughts. As a policy, they're trying to hang on to more carryover storage, because if it gets dry and you get a drought and you run out your reservoirs, that's not a good thing.
We've talked several times about how different the way that water is being delivered to California under the new climate scenario that we're all living in today. So I did read on Maven's notebook that they're thinking about a spillway, releasing water in the Oroville Dam. So you're referring to that or what? I mean, I understood it to be in preparation for the coming, atmospheric rivers.
Well, yeah, the large reservoirs, actually most of the reservoirs in California are dual operation. They have two jobs, to provide flood control and to store water. And in the wintertime, those two things are kind of in conflict. So we have to operate the reservoirs to what they call flood curves. So that's keeping them low enough so that they can catch a big bunch of precipitation should it come in. And so, yeah, we had to release water out of Oroville. We've had to release water out of Shasta, and that's to make room for these potentially incoming storms. Now, one thing that they're trying to do, we've had a lot of research on these storms atmospheric rivers. We used to call them Pineapple Express, but now we know there's these rivers of vapor that come over from the tropics, and they just inundate us. And so they were very unpredictable for the meteorologists, but Scripps Oceanography opened up a center for what they call the Center for Western Weather, Water, and Western Water in Weather Extremes, or something like that, CW3E. And they have been studying atmospheric rivers. They've done a number of things. They have created a scale, so you can kind of similar to a hurricane, you can predict how much water, how impactful this storm could be. And they have really worked to determine if they can more concretely figure out where those atmospheric rivers will make landfall. They're still they can still be very unpredictable. There was one day last year where all the news media were like, do not travel on this day. And I had to drive down from Chico to the Bay Area to help my sister because she was coming out of surgery. So I had to travel on that day, but there were just, they're telling you, don't do it. And I get on the road, and the road signs, that light up over the freeways are don't travel today if you don't have to, kind of stuff. And I traveled all the way down to the Bay Area without a drop of water, because the storm that they thought was going to hit Northern California veered off and hit the Central Coast. And that's when they had the flooding in Pajaro and the pier in Santa Cruz that got destroyed and all that. But so they still remain kind of unpredictable. So figuring out how to more accurately pinpoint where they will make landfall has been a big focus. And they have, we've really come quite a long way. And they have managed to create rules now for two reservoirs, one in Northern California in Sonoma and one in Southern California at Prado Dam, showing how we can leverage the better forecasting skills to hold more water in if the storms coming in are not going to be that big. And so this is going to help add to water supplies because, it will be able to hold on to more water. You just have to be so very careful, because when it comes to reservoirs and flood control, you don't want to be wrong. Because being wrong and losing a dam means billions of dollars of damage and probably hundreds of lives, depending on where that dam is. And a lot of people live below dams in California. There's 1,200 of them, so there's plenty of dams around. So, so you have to get it right. But we're working on that. And that is something that shows a lot of hope, I think, for, increasing our water supply.
And maintaining.
I think for sure, Chris, that, you said a lot right there, right? Every storm is so different. It's unique. They're warm. Some of them are cold. Some of them are wet. Some of them are dry. Some of them are windy. All the other stuff that's happening. But back to the snow just a little bit, because I just struck me on a headline that was on Maven's notebook that said California is in a snow drought, right?
Yeah.
Is that just, so Chris, is that just a colloquialism, or is that, you said we're at 54%, and I can see it's real, but we're only on February 1st, right? So we got a ways to go.
Well, yes, definitely. And again, it's not what's on the ground now, it's what's on the ground come the end of March or April. But the term snow drought is referring to our diminishing snowpack, these warmer storms. We're getting more rain and less snow. And this is really why we need to kind of rethink how our water infrastructure, because it's set up now for snow in the mountains. So, reservoir like Oroville is only useful to the point that there's snow up above it that's going to melt down and come into the reservoir, and the flood control benefits that it provides as well. But without that snow, Oroville's not going to see nearly as much water, and it's going to make these rim dams, as we call them, much less useful if there's not snow up above them. So, that's why there's a lot of talk about, two things, having a reservoir that or water storage space that you can put this water into, and also groundwater recharge. The problem is with groundwater recharge, I mean, it's great. You get as much water sinking into the earth as possible. That's great. But at a time when rain is coming down everywhere, groundwater basins fill up. The recharge basins fill up, and there's a limited capacity to get that much water moved around into the system. So you really kind of need to have some kind of storage beyond just groundwater recharge in order to capture this. And this is the premise that this new reservoir called Sites Reservoir, it's not a rim dam. They're going to build this dam in a valley where they're going to build the reservoir. It's not one dam, it's actually like 4, where they have to go into this valley and sort of build up the sides to make the bowl. And then they're going to pump water up to that reservoir and then take it out when it's needed. And this is the kind of project that our science seems to be saying we need to do, one that can capture these rains that fall, more so than the snow.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yep. Does to me. I also read that you read about the commissioners are discussing what to do if a storage project is not progressing.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what are they going to? What can they do about it?
But that's what they're kind of talking about. But these projects that were selected by the Water Storage Investment Program is called, and this is the funding that was given from Prop 1 in 2014. These projects were selected when they were in their pre-planning stages, I guess you could even say. None of them were really near construction. And that's because these are very expensive projects that take a long time to build. And if you're going to provide funding, you need to find your funding very early on to make sure there's a reason to incur all the design and all of that stuff. So these projects have received what they call an early funding award, which is 5% of their full award. That kind of helps with the permitting costs and everything. And then they have some more statutory requirements that they have to satisfy before they get their final funding award. So, so the question is, what happens if they have a project that can't be completed? And there is a project that kind of seems to be in question about whether they're going to ever get this project done. So the commissioners were having just a discussion, like, what are we going to do in the case of, and how much discretion do we have? And yes, the thing is, if the project isn't going to go forward, at some point the commission can pull the plug. So, but nothing is happening along those lines yet. There is a project that they're raising their eyebrows about, but that doesn't mean that it's failing at this time. So it's something just to be watched.
Okay. So I know you and Chris. I want you guys to talk about this. I mean, you're talking about something with saving salmon. I know something that Chris Davies interested in.
Yeah, Chris Davy, our fisherman. Yeah. Now, Newsom put out a plan for saving salmon, to help the salmon populations, and he's getting behind tearing down the dams like the Klamath Dam, also the Potter Valley project on the Eel River is another dam that they're thinking about taking down. Improving fish passage, some flows, modernize the hatcheries, certain things. And salmon advocates say there's a lot of good stuff in there, but of course there are always critics. And some of that is that they don't think there's enough flow in there. That they need to be concentrating on flows. And this is a strategy that looks at a lot of habitat restoration and fish passage, and tear down dams and stuff. And there is flow in there, but I think the general feeling is it's not enough. So.
Well, it's a good thing, but so we move from the fish to agriculture, and I know that a question came up. Will a shrinking Colorado River reduce, the produce aisle?
Well, yeah.
Actually, the term they used was shrivel. But so we go from one extreme. We try to save one thing, and then we got to worry about agriculture. And agriculture, I would assume, believe that it's a whole lot more valuable to California than the salmon run. Am I incorrect in that?
No? I would not agree with that. Actually, salmon is important, and it's economically important to a lot of people. We have commercial fishermen. We have recreational fishermen like Chris Davy over there. He likes to go out and go fishing, and fish are just part of the landscape here, and our salmon are in bad shape, and so I don't think that we really want to just give up on them. And
I'm not saying that. I think salmon's important, but they spend money for that, but then on the other end, they're yakking at the farmers about using water to grow crops.
Well, yeah, but that's on the Colorado River, and the Colorado River is, it has a problem. There's, too much water going out of those reservoirs and not enough water going in. So, the question is, and it's a hard question, I think, but you have like the Imperial Valley, which in the wintertime, so much of the vegetables and fruits that you see in the produce aisle are actually out of the Imperial Valley. It's a great temperate time in the valley, and they grow a lot of stuff there. But we need to do better on water use in Colorado. I'm working on a talk that Jeff Keitlinger gave, the former general manager of Metropolitan Water District, and he said that on the Colorado River, the lower basin states, that's Arizona and Nevada and California, need to cut in 2026 the equivalent of California's portion of Metropolitan's, the amount Metropolitan uses for a whole year. I mean, I think it's like a million acre feet or something. It's synonymous, equal to the water used in Southern California for a year. And most of the water goes to California. A healthy chunk goes to Arizona. Hardly anything goes to Nevada. So, that's pretty much going to have to come out between, California and Arizona's allocation. And this is going to be tough. It does mean less agriculture. Efficiency can only get us part of the way there. We just need to be using less water, and it is going to mean, hits to agriculture. I don't see any other way.
Well, maybe they should decide to do different kinds of rebates for the farming industry more than residential.
Well, urban water use is just a fraction of what agriculture uses. So
Right.
the amount that that urban people can conserve is not enough to mean that agriculture won't. I mean, everyone is going to have to take hits.
No, I totally agree. I just think that, we talked about this once before from a meeting at the CII that if they put special rebates out for farmers with the amount of property that they own, they could save a whole lot more money than they did giving rebates to the urban people. But I don't set those rules. That's just my opinion. That doesn't mean anything. So.
Well, there are a lot of programs out there that are working on the agriculture, for water efficiency. DWR has the sweep, so there are programs out there, and the National Natural Resources Conservation Service puts out there. So there is money out there to help with efficiency, but again, it's going to take more for agriculture, more than just being more efficient. I mean, there's just not enough, even with efficiency, to sustain things at the level they are today.
Well,
so
that doesn't mean going away forever.
Are you going to any events coming up? I know that at the end of February, Rob was just mentioning the CII. I don't know if you were referring to the California Irrigation Institute, Rob, but their conference is at the end of the month. Chris, are you going to that?
I actually am. I'm planning on it. They have some interesting things that they'll be talking about. Michael Anderson, the state climatologist, is set to speak. They have a speaker on NASA and remote sensing, and they have a session on AI, which should be
AI
interesting.
And big data, as they call it, right?
Yeah.
I'd be interested in listening, because they've got one of the presentations called "Adapting to Extremes." Kind of everything we were talking about just in the previous 20-25 minutes we've been talking. So I hope they record that and the CII makes it available. But good luck with that, Chris. And one more question for you, Rob, since you're up in Colorado, in Denver right now at the Pro Green Expo. How's that going for you?
It's going really good. They said the attendance was very big. I interviewed the gentleman who was putting that on and responsible for it, and they were very happy with what they see. A lot of attendance. They said it was more than it has been in the last couple of years. An interesting question that I always ask, if they were in charge of water, what's the first thing they would do to fix the problem? And everybody that I talk to here believes that education is the top thing they need to do, telling everybody about water and things that we talk about on the show. They said there's a lot of information that people need to know about and hear. And that was the number one answer to many of the people I talked to, probably about 6 people that I interviewed on yesterday. And that was they all echoed the same thing. So I guess that's the right thing. Ms. Austin, we have somebody that I know who works with you on Mavis Notebook, who's going to be doing something. I didn't know if you would like to stay for a few more minutes on the show and maybe say hi to Justin.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, great. So we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with our featured guest, and they have a business relationship together with Mavis Notebook, and we're going to be very happy to announce that tonight. I'm going to let Chris do that. So, and I opened it up to either Chris. So, probably Chris Austin. Probably Chris Austin. This is her thing. So we'll be right back in just a moment. So stick around, and we'll be here.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda is sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
Pros like you come to Site One Landscape Supply to stock up on supplies like this. Maybe a little of that, too. While you're here, you can grab a few tons of this, and maybe a few hundred of these. Throw in some of these guys, a case of those, and some of that new stuff you just heard about. And you can get everything you need in one place. If you have questions about when to apply this, or how to install that, we keep every location well stocked with green industry pros who have the answers you need. One-stop shopping. It's just one of the reasons landscape pros stock up at Site One.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
KCAA.
All right, so welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for sticking around. I'm going to let Chris Austin bring in our featured guest.
Oh gosh, I have to stop dancing. I never get to stay past the break, so I didn't know how funky your music was there, Russ. I was just having some fun. Yeah, I got started in the whole water thing because I read a book. I read The Cadillac Desert, and that just whetted my appetite for all of this water stuff. And I think that's a place where a lot of people kind of get introduced to water. And there are just so many books out there. So one of my readers, Justin Scott Coe, approached me and asked if I would be interested in him writing some book reviews. And it just kind of turned into me creating this page for Justin so he can do book reviews and podcasts and talk about all the books that are out there and which ones are really worth your time. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a great addition to the website, so I'm excited to share it with you and, welcome Justin to Maven's Notebook and the Water Zone.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And for our audience, Chris is the general manager of Plant Fish to Water in California, and we've known him for several years. I've known him past probably close to 15, 20 years for me, and he's a great guy. And tell us your thoughts on how you got started doing this.
Well, I kind of was thinking about how to really make myself read the books that I've been collecting for so long. I'm a bit of a bookish guy, an unreformed English major, and I like to collect books and try to get to read them, and I wasn't getting there. So I was thinking, well, what could I do? Well, first I can have my board of directors, tell me to start writing something. And then I was thinking, well, how can I make myself read these books? Well, I could write some book reviews, and who possibly could publish book reviews? And so I approached Chris, and she very graciously agreed, and so the water shelf was kind of born.
So it's quite so you mix this in now with your general work, correct?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of an add-on. My water district is very kind, but they hire me to provide a retail and wholesale water service to the great residents of Montclair and the Chino Valley. But this is kind of part of my own thing, but also part of the broader conversation about water that we're all part of.
I have one question, then I'm going to turn it over to Chris Davey. So you mentioned your English major, so when you were born, there wasn't anything stamped on your butt saying that you're going into the water business. How did you get here, and what drew you to that?
No, in fact, that's a lot. I've noticed it more and more when I talk with people in the water industry of how many diverse pathways we take in getting into water. My pathway, I was working on a PhD in English over here at Claremont Graduate University, and an email came through the student listserv looking for a technical writer. I was teaching part-time at the time and heard technical writers could make some decent money, and so I ended up getting hired by this a private consulting firm, Integrated Resource Management, also in Claremont, and that got me into the water field, and I met some local water managers through the local adjudication process. And when a position opened up in one of the agencies, turns out to be Monte Vista Water, I applied for it, got it, and worked my way up.
Wow. Well, I'm going to let another alumnus of Claremont ask you some questions. Mr. Chris Davey.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Rob. And Justin, welcome to the Water Zone, man. Glad to have you on.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm a big fan.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you and I have something in common. I'm also a alumni of Claremont Graduate University, but I went there, Justin, when it was CGS, Claremont Graduate School.
Yep.
Back in the 1980s. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that.
Well, Chris, I thought you were 32 years old. You told me.
Yes, that's right. So as long as we never meet, we'll keep that lie going.
You got it.
The fact that I've just retired should tell you something, Rob. So so Justin, let me ask you this, because we've got some engaged listeners here, and so why don't you tell us about first of all about you've told us about yourself, but so tell us now about Monte Vista Water District. Maybe kind of go over the service area, your customer types, that kind of thing, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, I'd love to. Monte Vista Water District is a relatively small but mighty county water district at the west end of San Bernardino County in California. We serve the city of Montclair, portions of the city of Chino, and some unincorporated areas there, about 10 square mile service area, primarily residential, but with some commercial and industrial customers and agricultural customers and nursery customers as well. So pretty diverse customer base, but primarily residential. We also provide wholesale service to the city of Chino Hills, providing from about a third to a half of their water supply at a wholesale level. So roughly about 125, 130,000 total population for served, both retail and wholesale. Our retail side, direct service directly to the end-use customer, maybe about 57,000 population and about 12,000 connections, 12,500 connections.
All right. As I am familiar with most of the water agencies around the local area here, being a Claremont resident myself, Justin, I'm assuming that if you can kind of tell our listeners a little bit about where you get your water from, what the sources are. I'm assuming that it's probably, a good chunk of it, 2/3, 3/4% groundwater, and the rest is imported. Am I close?
You're very close. Sometimes it can be closer to half and half, but that's roughly the distribution. We're, along with the Golden State Water Company to provide service to the city of Claremont, we are a producer party in the Chino groundwater basin, and we have adjudicated rights there for groundwater. And we have a large amount of facilities, production wells, treatment plants, in order to avail ourselves of that groundwater resource, a wonderful groundwater resource, very vital to our area. We supplement that with imported water from Northern California. We own a imported water treatment plant that takes in imported water from the State Water Project managed by the Department of Water Resources, delivered through Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and their member agency, Inland Empire Utilities Agency. And then we have a joint powers authority called Water Facilities Authority, owned by my district as well as the cities of Ontario, Chino Hills, and Upland. And we treat that imported water and deliver it to ourselves. We also have additional supplies from San Antonio Water Company. We are a shareholder in that company, which is one of the oldest water suppliers in the region. And we also distribute non-potable recycled water in partnership with Inland Empire Utilities Agency and the City of Montclair.
Well, you told us a little bit about your customer base, Justin, and I'm just interested to know about kind of the mix of your customers. How much is residential? How much are industrial? Or things like schools and cemeteries, parks, churches, hospitals, that kind of stuff. Can you kind of give us a view of what your mix of customer base is?
Sure. We're primarily residential, about 80 to 90%, 80% single family, and some also a sizable number of multifamily customers. We do have some commercial areas that we provide service to, as well as some industrial areas. Commercial, Montclair Plaza and the businesses in that area. It's kind of a commercial zone to the north of the 10 freeway, and also some large open space areas in the unincorporated southern portion of our service area, where there's a large number of nurseries, and so they're also large water users.
Awesome, and I know Rob takes a terrible risk when he gives me the mic to ask questions, because I'll go on and on. But I'll ask one more, Justin, and before I hand it back to Rob, because I know Rob's got some questions about your conservation, your education and outreach, and all that kind of stuff, and I'd love to hear about that. But you mentioned earlier that you guys, Monte Vista Water District, you've got a pretty close relationship with Chino Basin Water Conservation District, their Waterwise Community Center, and all that stuff. Kind of tell us about that relationship.
I'm so glad you raised that. They are an incredibly strong partner for us and other local agencies, a wonderful regional partner and friend to the district. The Chino Basin Water Conservation District formed roughly in the 50s in order to ensure that the water resources that are local could be conserved for local use. And conservation back then was really about capturing, storing, and ensuring that water is appropriately managed, local water. So they own and run a number of percolation basins that are able to capture local stormwater, slow it down, and allow it to percolate into the ground. That helps to recharge our local groundwater resource. And basically, the way I'd like to say is they put the water in, we take the water out. So they're just a tremendous partner. They also have an incredibly robust water conservation program. So they've expanded conservation from the 50s definition to what we think of in conservation as far as demand management, how to appropriately use water wisely and efficiently. And they have a wonderful conservation center. They have staff who are experts in using water efficiently. They have a demonstration garden that is really targeted towards how people actually use landscapes in their residential and commercial properties. And so they actually have demonstration plots. It's a beautiful garden if anyone is ever in the Montclair area. And we work very closely together with the Conservation District to serve our mutual constituents.
Rob and I have both been there. We used to attend, we haven't in the last couple of years, Rob, but we used to attend the conservation event that they had every year. We went there on behalf of Toro, showed our wares and did some classes on efficiency, nozzles, and pressure regulation, spray heads, that sort of stuff. So familiar with it, and of course I just revealed to you where I live, and so I'm very close there. We've had a couple of their guys on our show before, Brandon Burgess, for example, and some others. So yeah, I agree with everything you said. They must be a great partner for you, for sure.
They certainly are. And there's lots of different partners, lots of different organizations, from the cities to the districts, different types of districts, our municipal water agency partners, metropolitan water district. It's a collective effort to provide reliable water service.
Well, it's a good way to go. Like Chris said, we've been there many times over the years, giving training sessions on smart controllers and things of that sort. Chris doing hydraulics things, and it was wonderful. Let me take it away from there a little bit, go into the book things. I can tell you over, our show's a little shy of 500 shows that we've done up to date. And we've had quite a bit of very notable authors, especially in the water, because our show's about water, come on. And they usually send a book to us ahead of time to read. And sometimes I wish they have cliff notes, because sometimes they write a lot of really thick books. You try to rush to get through them. You get the book 2 days before the show, or sometimes the day of the show. We've had a couple of those, and you try to skim through it as quick as you can, but then I got to wind up reading it all over again just to get the full intent. So tell us some of the books that you've read, and from who, and which ones you kind of navigate to. What kind of pulls you of the types of water books?
Well, there's a tremendous variety of water books out there, and when Chris and I were conceptualizing the water shelf, we wanted to start with just kind of a top 10, and I couldn't limit it to 10, so she allowed me the top 20 water books, and I tried to make it a kind of a diverse collection of the different types of water books out there. I would say that the book that really came out just recently that frankly inspired this effort, 3 Ages of Water by Peter Gleek. It's an amazing book that just came out. That was my first book review, and he'll actually be my first podcast interviewee. I'm going to interview him tomorrow, actually, record an interview, and I'm really excited, actually very nervous, because he's kind of a rock star in the water world. So an amazing book. I just received a new book by David Sedlak called Water for All, Global Solutions for a Changing Climate, just out, hot off the press. And I'm looking forward to both reading the book, hopefully reviewing it, and also I've scheduled a time to record a podcast with him. So also incredible. You heard Chris at the very beginning talk about Cadillac Desert. It's not just the books that are coming out now, but there's a tremendous historical literature about water. And I would say that was the first book on the top 20, because it's just one of those books that really shaped the narrative and shaped the perspective. And not for everybody agrees with the book. It's a very opinionated book as well. But it really tells you a lot from an opinionated perspective of how water developed in the American West. And it's a book that's really a touchstone for this talking about water, particularly in the Western United States. There's also many other books. Stop me when you want to, but one more book I would like to mention.
I was just going to tell you that. Say hi to Peter. He's been on our show before.
It doesn't surprise me. I will definitely do that. I'll give him greetings. Another book that came out relatively recently, The Dreamt Land, Chasing Water and Dust Across California by Mark Arax. Just an amazing book as well, focused on the agricultural heritage of water. And I think you guys were talking about this earlier in the radio show. Just an amazing book, very personal, evocative, but also comprehensive in reviewing how water developed in California, particularly from that agricultural point of view. But let me just say, there's other types of books. There's water thrillers that are out there. I added one of those to the top 20, but there's others that I've discovered that I'd like to review. There's water opinion pieces. There's economic books on water. There's water quality books focused specifically on quality, in particular Troubled Water by Seth Siegel, as well as a book by the name of someone you probably recognize, Aaron Brockovich, Superman's Not Coming, an amazing book on water quality. So just a lot of great books out there.
Chris and I are pre-recording Seth Siegel. I think it's Tuesday. Is that correct, Chris?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, and he's been on several times before, and so yeah, you got the right people. I can tell you that. And it should be very interesting. And let us know about your podcast. Where can people get that from?
Well, I'm just getting started now. I'm going to do my first recording tomorrow. I've got a few others lined up, and I'm really excited about and nervous. I'm learning from you guys, you pros. This will be my first time doing anything like this, but hopefully we'll get some good recordings and post those. They'll basically be focused on authors and their books. But hopefully, eventually, we expand it to also include academics, other reviewers of books, even yourselves, if you're interested, and come in and talk about your experience with water literature. I'd love that. It's a podcast idea that's just getting started.
Good. Well, you talk about the pros. The pros are Chris Austin and Chris Davey, and I appreciate both of them. They super help make our show, very good, and I appreciate that from both of them. So, and they know that, and I've known you for quite a few years, and I'm glad to see that you've worked your way up, and you've done. I've always thought you were going to be the guy anyway, and you did it. So I'm proud of you for that. Glad I knew you went, and I'm glad I know you now. But let's just get back to your water agency thing, and just real quick. So. You do a lot of public education and outreach, and what do you do for the rebates? And how do you see them as being still effective as it was when you guys were giving out free controllers, free sprinkler nozzles, and all that kind of stuff? Did it make a difference? Did you really see people grab into it and understand it? I was there training a few times at that facility and talking on a weekend to the people, but you see the results of that. How did that come out for you guys?
Well, I think I mean, you often hear this, but very much an all of the above effort. The rebates are a good component of that, but I wouldn't say they are just even the top component of a comprehensive water efficiency, water management, water conservation program. Very important to get people introduced and to kind of push them over the line towards purchasing the best technology, and the rebates really help do that. Also, for those who still couldn't maybe afford the best technology, say for irrigation, we have direct installation programs, and sometimes those are even targeted in terms of income qualified for those who would have a hard time affording the best technology to help use water efficiently on their landscapes. Obviously, before that, we had toilet rebates and clothes washer rebates and all those various rebates. And I think that they have had their success in the past, and we still have those rebates available. Pretty much every water agency would have some form of rebate. But I think we've probably reached a bit of a, so to speak, saturation on a lot of those programs. So I think now we need to kind of focus on, to my mind, you guys were talking about education before, really getting a message out, and I think we've done this very successfully, definitely at Monte Vista Water District and our surrounding regional partners, that, there's a water ethic. There's an appropriate way to use water. We're all learning how to do it better and better. You never arrive, so to speak. It's just like anything with education. You're always in a learner mode. But, we want to help customers be as efficient as possible, to increase their efficiency as they can do so, to find ways to help them do that. But really, there's also, if customers know the right thing to do and can afford to do it, we ask them, please do it on their own. Don't wait for the rebate. Don't wait for someone else to pay you to do it. If you know the right thing to do and you can afford to do so, that is the best thing to do. And that can help maybe reserve our limited dollars for incentives to really offer for those who really know what to do but don't quite have the financial means to be able to do that. And so I think that's where we're going to have to move in the near term.
I know
Agreed.
The state of California, the state of California is pushing the water suppliers to even try to get to achieve a better, better rate of water distribution, meaning they want to get down to 30 gallons per capita per day, and that's going to be tough. I know Irvine made a speech at one of the meetings that they had and talked about the millions of dollars they spent to get to the level they get to. And, if it gets down to really low usage of water, they still have to pay people to do the operation of the water distribution and the cleaning and all of that. How do you see that going to come down? Because, Irvine Ranch. I'm just using it as an example because they have a lot of money and they have a lot of big customers. But what do you do when you tell them, hey, you got to reduce 25%, and they did that. Now they want them to do even more, but then that takes away dollars from the water agency unless the next round is raise up the rates. How do you see that?
Yes. Well, it is a common issue and problem, and Irvine is probably expressed it better than any agency I can think of, and they've really led the way on efficiency programs. We learned a great deal from them. We adopted budget rates after seeing their success back in 2010, and they've been very successful for our district. So there's ways of achieving efficiency, but then there's also potentially unrealistic expectations that proposed regulations coming out of the state right now that I think all water agencies are concerned with and are seeking to assist to revise so that they're achievable and can really achieve a reasonable, efficient use of water without requiring a huge change in our landscapes in just 10 to 15 years that is really we're not able to achieve at least with our current financial resources. So I think they're absolutely on the right track, and I know that we're working very closely with our state partners to come up with the best approach for permanent regulations that are efficiency-based, but are also based on what we actually can achieve and what we can expect our customers to do in a relatively short time frame. The original proposal would have required millions upon millions of square feet of turf to be removed, and at a pace that we just don't have enough money to incentivize people to do that. Our customers don't have enough money to implement all that landscape change in such a small amount of time. So we need a kind of a game plan for what we can actually achieve with our available resources.
Yeah, I know. You probably go ahead, Chris.
No, Rob, I was just going to ask, as Justin will tell you, I manage the chat board as the show's going on here. So I've got a couple of listeners inquiring, what about some projects that Monte Vista Water District is doing pretty much centered around recycled water, reused, effluent, non-potable, that kind of stuff? You got, in the last couple of minutes we've got, can you kind of round up that for us?
Yes, non-potable reuse, indirect, and soon direct is a very active area. We've been reusing, recycling treated wastewater for a long time. We've implemented a direct distribution system, a separate distribution system for treated wastewater, recycled water for landscape irrigation purposes, and we have 18 connections on that system. It's a relatively small system, but we're proud of it in partnership with the City of Montclair and the Conservation District as well. More regionally, it's a very robust program, and it's growing. They're looking at advanced treatment in the near-term future, so there's much more to come on that. But we've been doing it for quite a bit.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're up at the end of our show. We have to turn it over to NBC for their news hour. Justin, thank you very, very much. Chris Austin, thank you very much. Got a good pick. You got a good winner here with that. We're waiting to hear the book review. Thank you, Justin, for being on our show. We appreciate it. All right, to our listeners, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for listening in, and remember what we always say, please help keep our planet blue. And while you're doing that, you can't do it unless you have blue. So have a good weekend, and remember that. Thanks.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local